Greetings all, Shane Bruce, Resto Ma Daisy, with a hail and farewell to a subscriber gun that came in recently for a little dust off and an examination mechanically to see if everything was okay on the inside. This is a Daisy number 111 Model 40 Red Ryder carbine, and what makes it kind of neat is that this is a copper banded gun. This is one of the early production pieces that Daisy cranked out between 1941 and the shut-off date in 1942 when they reconfigured their manufacturing plant to assist in a war effort. So not that many of these guns were built. It was the introduction of the model followed by the first production year. And here we see the copper band, the first of the two copper bands on this particular gun, heavily accented in their marketing program for this weapon, as well as the tie-in with the Red Ryder figure, who was a comic book guy, but also they made several, well, probably more like a dozen Red Ryder movies in the 40s and 50s, late 40s and early 50s. And if you haven't had an opportunity to see one of those, you might want to check it out. They're unique in that 1 hour, 21 minute Western format. It was so favored back then. Now, what makes this gun worth a peek at is this is a subscriber piece with a provenance. In other words, the gentleman who sent it to me, it was his father's gun. It was purchased in the 40s, and I have every reason to believe that, based on condition of the copper, that this is one of the original copper guns. It's peened like it ought to be. The copper is plated over steel, and it does show the signs and effects of wear and tear, as does the rest of the gun. We didn't do anything to this gun other than clean it up really well. And it wasn't dirty, but it did have a goodly collection of dried up grease at various points, like where the forestock or the forearm connects with the receiver. A lot of sludge built up under the rear sight, and also underneath the lever bolt and the trigger bolt and the stock bolt, to be expected. Now, the gun, I believe to be, is completely original. The power plant had a copper washed mainspring. It was in good shape. We didn't replace any of that. The seal set, remarkably, was still well oiled, well lubricated, and functional. Let's flip it over and take a look at the back side. What makes the gun even more unique, in my opinion, is the fact that this rascal still shoots. There was some schmutz on the wood. Noticeably, it had little flecks, tiny little flecks of olive drab paint here and there. Not everywhere, but down at the base of the buttstock, a couple of blips up on the front end of the receiver, a couple of blips on the forearm. I don't know what it is about daisies and paint, but you know, if you get paint within, I don't know, a mile of a daisy, it's going to get a drop or two on it. It just has to do that. Doesn't seem to be something that can be corrected or fixed. Now, the upside of the gun is the fact that it was running really well. We normally bring a gun in like this, and before we do anything to it, we'll run a chrono test on it. We won't put oil in it. We won't do any of that. We want to see how the gun runs, you know, straight from its place in the closet. And this particular gun was averaging about 292 dry. So we gave it a couple of drops of oil down the old air tube area, and then we dropped a few in back from the trigger guard forward. They were set for a minute or two and refired, and it had a top speed then of 303, but settled down to an average of 294. So the gun runs really fine, especially since I think the gun has the original leather seals in it. They're really nicely formed and patterned to each other. The only other mod we did was to drop a Model 25 shot tube in it, and with that, it did pick up some speed, running around 325. So if the Model 25 shot tubes ever get back in stock and at Daisy, that would be an excellent item for the owner to pick up if he intends to actually shoot the gun on a regular basis. Right now, it's doing 30 to 40 feet a second better than a new in box Red Ryder, and it's definitely a lot cooler at the age of the piece, you know, which is roughly 80 years, 81 years, than a new Red Ryder would be. So that's our hail, that's our farewell, and this number 111 Model 40 is heading back to its owner pretty damn soon. That's all we've got for you tonight, kids. This is Shane Bruce, Resto Ma Daisy, signing off.